You're listening to The Lavender Phantom, Book 1 of the Club Lavender Duet by Lainey Delaroque. Copyright 2021 Lainey Delaroque. Part 3, Chapters 11 to 15. For previous chapters, navigate to the book playlist on this channel. Chapter 11. At the bottom of the stairs, a dark hallway leads to an open door. The light coming from inside illuminates the passage, and I cross the distance confidently, my fear safely at bay. I walk into a storage room. In contrast with the lavish interior upstairs, it looks unimpressive. There are a few rows of floor-to-ceiling shelves full of various food and drink items. Bottles, cartons, and tins are organized neatly and labeled appropriately. I take a few steps around, locate the shelf with the juice, and take 2 cartons. I'm about to go back upstairs when something catches my eye. There is a gray door at the back of the storage room. It looks like the entrance to a walk-in freezer, and although I know I have nothing to get from there, I can't help but walk behind the shelves of boxes and peek through the small window. I expect blinding light and frost, but I instead stare at the inside of an empty room. It can't be just that. I look at the little display next to it. The freezer is off. I stand on tiptoes, my fingers clutching the small ridge of the window as I try to get a better look in and around. I gasp when I see something that looks like stretched-out legs. My first thought is morbid. It is a freezer, after all, and those are undoubtedly human legs. I push the handle. Unsurprisingly, the door doesn't budge. I knock softly, unsure why. I'm not expecting an answer. I look again. Did one knee twitch, or did I imagine it? I listen closely, my heartbeat deafening in my ears. The muffled sounds of the bar upstairs are comforting in their distance, so I sneak back to the door of the storage room, close it quietly, drop the latch, and return to the freezer entrance. I slip the top of my strapless dress to my waist and fiddle with my bra, looking for the underwires. After 2 seconds, I pull them out. I prepared them earlier, shaping their ends to meet my needs. I don't have the case of lockpicks that Chief gave me. They're too precious and too conspicuous. If there is a gang involved in running Lavender, they will probably recognize the brigand symbol. I won't be able to lie my way into the office upstairs, and all will be in vain. No revenge, no justice, no money. I put an ear to the door, listening for the distinct clicks of the spokes as I work the lock. Keeping my breathing steady and ignoring the loudness of the blood rushing through my skull, I move the underwires meticulously inside. Less than a minute later, the lock clicks open, and I press the handle, wedging the door open with my foot. I take a second to place the underwires back and shuffle my dress over my breasts. I put the juice cartons where my foot was. I don't want to get locked in if someone comes by or if the person inside suddenly bolts out. The air smells like old meat and spices. But if it has ever been used as a freezer, it wasn't recently. When I turn to look at the body, I let out an audible sigh. It isn't a corpse, only a hostage. By some means, in my books, this is better. Hey, are you okay? My whisper echoes in the empty space when I try to get the man's attention. He is tall and muscular, his chest rising and falling, reassuring me he isn't dead despite his bowed head. He has a nest of thick black hair and wide shoulders, somehow still exuding power while slumped in the chair. The man doesn't look like he belongs tied up in a freezer. With the rope straining under his muscles, it seems like he could get free if he sneezed. He looks up, startling me with the intensity of his gaze, and nods. The gag in his mouth prevents him from speaking, so I don't press with more questions. He has a black eye and a cut on his cheek. His pale gray eyes lid down as soon as I catch sight of them, as if looking up at me takes too much effort. He looks relaxed, but purpling bruises peek from under his unbuttoned shirt. There is dried blood around his mouth. I tiptoe around the chair, looking at his bindings. Should I release him? An enemy of my enemy is my friend and all that? His simple white shirt and black jeans look familiar. I stop and look at his back. It's hard to tell from this angle, but he could be the one who saved Melanie. He could also be the one who employed me and got her tangled in this mess in the first place. His shirt is so pristinely white I can see exactly where he's been kicked. There's at least 3 different shoe prints on him. How is he not in agonizing pain? Is he hiding it? Does he enjoy the rawness of it, like I do? His hands are tied behind his back. If it were any other situation, I would revel in the sight of him. But this is not quality times in the moon garden, but enemy territory, and an unknown that can potentially ruin my plans. I consider what I can do with him. A part of me screams that I should leave him, lock the door, and forget he is even here. It's not my business. For all I know, it could be a trap set by Valerie. Another part winces at the look of him, alone in a closed space, tied up haphazardly, without care for his comfort. I go behind his back, kneel, and touch his hands. They are cold. Squeeze, I say, starting my normal rope safety checks on autopilot. I can't release him. I can't even let him speak. What if he screams? But if he's going to be tied up, he might as well be tied up safely. I don't want to play a part in someone losing their hands or worse. He squeezes weakly. His hands are enormous around mine, chilling on my fingers. Their color is changing too. His skin is pale pink around the wrists, but his fingers are purpling. I don't like the look of them. I have to adjust his ropes quickly if he is to keep using them. Considering he is a hostage in a basement, it is unclear what kind of future that might be, but I can never ignore preventing a rope injury. Are you going to hurt me if I untie you? I whisper in his ear from behind, still holding his hands. He flinches slightly, then shakes his head. I don't know why I trust him in that moment, but I do. I untangle the ugly knot around his wrists. Keeping the tension in, I slowly unravel it and massage his hands. He is undoubtedly feeling pinpricks as blood rushes back in. Color is returning to them. His breathing quickens, and I expect he might try to escape. Maybe fight me. Preemptively, I snake my arms around his forearms, pulling them together and immobilizing him. I glance at his legs, taped to the chair. Why did they tie his wrists if they had tape? Is this some sort of sick game? He relaxes in my hold. Was I wrong in assuming he would flee? Maybe he just wanted to stretch. I don't think too long about it and tie the rope around his wrists again, safely and securely. He can stay like that for days and still use all his limbs after. I finish with a quick tug. He tries to say something, but the gag muffles his efforts. I glance at the door and bite my lip. Will he scream if I remove it for a bit? His jaw must be locked and painful. I pause and take a breath. How long have I been down here? What if someone comes looking for me? How will I explain being inside what used to be a locked freezer? I don't want to raise any alarms during my so-called interview, so I step in front of the man, lift his chin with my fingers, and shake my head. I'm sorry, I whisper. I can't set you free. I can't help. Not now, at least. But your hands will be fine. I cringe as his eyes drop to the floor. My stomach twists with the dilemma in front of me, but I follow the most logical, cowardly plan of action. I don't know who he is, if he is good or bad, why he is tied, and what could befall me, Melanie or anyone else if I free him and all goes to hell. I've helped him as much as I can, so I mutter a quick, sorry, again. On the way out, I cast a sideways glance at him, wanting to remember his features so I can ask someone later. Who? I don't know. But this almost feels like a fateful meeting. Almost. Because I don't believe in fate. If I plant myself properly in Lavender and he is still kept here, I will look after him. If there is a next time, I might take his gag off and listen to his story. Maybe he will tell me about Melanie. Maybe he will be my ally. As I click the freezer door shut, I hear loud banging on the door to the storage room. I jump out of my skin but quickly grab the 2 cartons of cranberry juice and run to raise the latch. An unknown man stands before me for a brief second. I rush past him and up the stairs, wobbly in my high heels, pretending nothing is amiss. I hope he won't follow me, won't question why the door was locked, won't raise any issues with Valerie. I should have gotten a better look at him, but my heart was already drumming from the encounter with the mysterious hostage and almost getting caught. I know it will show, so as I reach the last few steps, I slow my pace and take deep, calculated breaths. When my head appears in the birdcage at the lounge floor, I have collected myself, a peaceful smile on my lips. Under my heavy makeup, however, my cheeks are burning with stress. The lounge feels much warmer than before, its colors gleaming with a vividness I hadn't noticed. I look around before I emerge fully. The barman is gone, and Peahen is nowhere in sight, so I put the juice on the counter and peek from the back. The lounge is full of people I either ignored earlier or who have recently arrived. Valerie has moved and is now sitting at a table, draped on the arm of a man in a dark blue clean-cut suit and a gray shirt. His hair is buzzed short, and his face is in shadow under the spotlight. The hum in the room is both muted and deafening. Something in the whole situation makes me uncomfortable, and I have a powerful desire to go home. As my knees wobble, I remind myself why I'm here. When the memory of Melanie's tired, blank face floats in my mind, my doubts turn to ashes, and I straighten up, my resolve strengthened once more.
"Come here, darling,"
Valerie calls above the sound of the crowd, her voice carrying in the air like a snake slithering through tall grass. I point at myself in question, hoping she meant someone else. She nods, her gaze unwaveringly tangled with my own. I will my feet to move across the lounge carpet as smoothly as I can. When I reach her, a sneering smile paints her lips.
"You're not very good at this waitressing business, are you?"
She coos, her fingers playing with the hem of the man's shirt sleeve. My eyes follow the movement and reach his face. He is smiling widely, his pose relaxed on the chair, but his gaze still concealed in darkness. I don't know if he looks back at me.
Peahen told me to get some juice,
I reply without sitting down.
"Took you quite long."
Valerie's brows furrow.
"You look like you've seen the Lavender Phantom."
A smile is playing on her lips. So this is the test, I realize. What would I do if I saw something illegal down there? I bet I would have failed if I had screamed or fainted. I decide not to mention it at all. I doubt curiosity is a trait they are actively looking for in their employees.
"It took me a while to find the juice."
I lie.
"There are only a few storage shelves."
She presses on. I stand still, without stiffening my spine, and keep my voice resigned, as if what she is saying doesn't make much sense to me.
"I have agnosia." I couldn't tell which carton was the cranberry juice.
"What's that?"
Trouble recognizing visual objects. People sometimes. Can't remember faces very well either.
I thank an acquaintance from the Moon Garden for spending an hour and a half telling me about their life. I was only half listening then. The agnosia they had stood out to me as interesting, unique. Maybe this can help me. Maybe this disability will seem as a boon to Valerie. Her eyes narrow, but it seems like this part of the questioning is over.
"You failed at waitressing, Adrian, but you may have just passed for another, better-paid job. Come back tomorrow at the same time, if you are still in need of work, and I will interview you again."
She winks at the man.
"Doesn't she look like lavender material, Duke Harrington?"
I have to keep my eyebrows from furrowing. Is this sarcasm or a compliment? I can't tell. The man chuckles and takes a sip of his drink. I keep my cool and nod.
"I'm still interested."
"Wonderful,"
she says.
"Come, sit down. Enjoy some of this tea. We're having a black tea blend with a dash of Irish whiskey."
My mouth waters at the mention, but I remember Melanie's words.
She gave me a cup of tea, and after that, I don't know.
Thank you, but I had quite a bit to drink before coming here already. I know it's not very professional, but I needed a bit of courage. I would love a cup of mint tea instead.
My voice is steady, maybe too steady for a tipsy person, but I can't take it back.
Boring choice of tea? But I guess there is a time and a place for that,
Valerie says, and waves at the barman who has mysteriously reappeared. He pulls a jar out from the back, scoops a spoonful of leaves, puts them in a fresh pot, and fills it with water. A wisp of steam swirls over the top as he closes it with the lid and brings it over together with a cup. Satisfied that the tea is not poisoned or spiked, I take a sip and let the relaxing taste of peppermint soothe my nerves. Soon after, Valerie calls Peahen to entertain the man. I sit sideways, uncomfortably listening to their quiet exchange. I can't make out anything but the occasional dirty word. They leave and go upstairs without giving me a passing glance. I'm happy with this. I want to be invisible. As things go, today hasn't been a failure. Valerie is zigzagging between the private rooms and the bar area. I watch her every move while I sip what remains of my tea. I think about the mysterious stranger sitting a level below us, restrained and alone in the empty walk-in freezer, while patrons above enjoy tea and alcohol, mixed with decadent pleasures. How many of those are even legal? Abandoning the subject before it drives me insane, I focus on the rim of my cup. Pink lipstick marks the place where I have touched my lips to it. It is surreal that such a mundane item was the weapon used against Melanie. Anger simmers under my skin until my blood starts boiling. A sudden urge to break the teacup to pieces and trash the entire place rises inside me. I set the cup on its small plate, willing my fury to subside. It rages on anyway, tearing my insides to bits. Chapter 12. On the drive home, I plot and scheme, my brain hazy with feelings. When I collapse on the bed, it's after 2 a.m. I think about Melanie's sleeping face, imagining her in Hannah's guest bedroom. I'm a parent, not only a sister. Should I have just accepted that bad things happen to good people and moved on, focusing my energy on Melanie and her future? But $20,000 will help that future immensely, and I don't really know how else to help her. I only know how to scheme, pick locks, and be angry. I let sleep take me with these thoughts chirping in my mind like an unwelcome cricket, loud and annoying. I sleep until noon, a dark, dreamless sleep. After I'm up, I do things around the house, shop for food, and try to relax. In the afternoon, my phone buzzes with a message.
Report now.
I roll my eyes and type up a reply. I have a second interview tonight. If that goes well, I will work there and find a way up the stairs and into the office. Send me a burner phone. I don't have to wait long for a response.
Don't take too long. Trust no one but the Phantom. We will leave you a phone in a locker close to Lavender at some point.
This again. The Phantom. Valerie had said it like he was an urban legend, but my employer's words had sounded like he's a real person. Can it be the hostage in the basement? Another thing to investigate. Before leaving, I focus on assembling my attire and preparing my makeup. I pack a larger selection of lockpicks this time, having bought some basic ones, hoping I would get the chance to let myself in somewhere else and discover more. Back in front of Lavender's door, the neon sign flickers in my peripheral vision, taunting me with its brightness. For my second evening, I chose a more subdued dress. My tight turquoise bodycon dress from last night had attracted the gazes of staff and customers alike. Luckily, no one approached me to talk. After thinking about it, I decided that I should blend in, not stand out. So tonight I'm in a pale blue skater dress, sleeveless and above the knee but covering my chest with its high-neck design. It has a lace bodice with a simple flower pattern and nothing more. It does not hug my body the same way the turquoise one does, so I can breathe comfortably and not worry about things sticking out or showing by mistake. The flowing skirt of the blue dress allows me to conceal a small pouch at the hem of my panties with some of my lockpicks. The others, as before, are in the underwire space of my bra, easily accessible from the side of my dress. I have collected the loose strands of hair around my face and pinned them back, still keeping the nice soft curls from the day before. I feel prepared when I walk in, my goal for the night clear in my mind. Go to the second floor, find the office, get the ledgers, leave. A girl I haven't seen before greets me like yesterday.
Welcome to Lavender, the esteemed estate of Earl and Lady Grey. Do you have a reservation?
I tell her my business, and she takes me in. She looks older than me, but I can see a fading bruise at the side of her neck. I hope it was consensual. I suspect it wasn't. Valerie perches at the bar. As soon as I'm inside the room, her head turns and her lips curl in a predatory grin.
Welcome back, Adrienne, my little partridge,
She says as she strides over, her long, bare legs glistening in the neon light. She has an ankle-length purple dress on with one slit starting from the top of her thigh. I don't like the term of endearment she has picked for me, but I keep quiet. What's with all the bird names?
Follow me, and I'll show you where you can leave your things. Treat tonight as if you've been hired already. Do your best, and I will let you know at the end of the shift if we want to keep you on.
Valerie seems to be in a pleasant mood, almost skipping in front of me as she leads me downstairs, past the storage room, and through a door to a well-lit room with a table, some chairs, and 2 wardrobes.
This is the staff area. It's not big, but it serves its purpose. There are showers over there, too. If you need a minute or two alone, you can always come here as long as it doesn't clash with business needs.
She pauses, considering my expression.
That means if you are engaged with a client, you should be looking after them, not hanging around in the basement.
Engaged with a client?
The question is out before I even consider if I want to ask it. It surprises me they would be so forward about prostitution, and I have now voiced it.
Don't look so scared,
She says and pats my shoulder.
Our staff are entertainers. They provide an experience. Some clients enjoy their tea in the company of a beautiful girl. Others enjoy that of a man. And we have those who like to be surrounded by everything in between those two categories, or outside them. We are a versatile establishment and aim to provide the best service.
I swallow, my throat suddenly dry. I'm ready to break into the place, to keep its restrained hostage secret. But am I ready to whore myself out for the job? My resolve wanes.
You look terrified.
Valerie takes my hand in hers and looks me in the eye, her face the epitome of friendliness. Mine seems to be strained with stress no matter how hard I try to relax it.
I think you are assuming the worst. We are not dissimilar to what in Japan they call a host club or a maid cafe. It's pretty dresses and smiles to sell more. We do not expect you to do anything that you're not comfortable with. Just bring food, pour the drinks, laugh at jokes that might be a tad unfunny. Maybe put up with an occasional hand on your thigh or around your shoulders. Does that sound so bad?
As Valerie speaks, I notice the cold stillness of her hand on mine. It's like I've put my fingers in ice. Truthfully, it doesn't sound bad at all. But I'm sober and on high alert, and I know most things that sound too good to be true are. Did she entice Melanie with the same sweet, reassuring words before they served her spiked tea and tried to rape her?
I apologize. This is a very different environment than I'm used to. It will take me a few moments to acclimatize.
Despite my meek words, I'm reeling inside. I have many questions, many unknowns. One thing, however, is certain. I can't trust this woman. I will not be drugged and taken advantage of. Whatever is to happen to me, I will face it wide awake with a clear mind.
No problem,
Valerie says. My heart picks up pace when we leave the staff area and head for the storeroom, the one place I don't feel confident being.
Get used to this tonight or we won't be able to offer you a position. It is your extra income, so be smart about it.
I hate how she talks as if she has my best interests in mind. I can see any other desperate girl drinking her words up like sweet syrup, when they are only poison mixed with sugar. We enter the storage area, and she gives me some things to carry up. I don't dare glance at the door to the walk-in freezer, afraid she might catch yesterday's lie. Valerie orders me to cut some cheese to match a picture of a cheese platter. Behind the bar, I meet Ben, who doesn't seem to talk much and only focuses on preparing drink after drink. I scan his features, trying to figure out if he was the one who saw me run out of the storage room yesterday, but my memory returns a blank. If he was, he doesn't show it. His short brown hair leaves his facial expressions exposed, his straight nose and thin lips entirely ordinary. I walk behind him, considering. Maybe he's the one who saved Melanie? Maybe he's my employer? His hands are stacked with rings and bracelets, flashing in the light with every motion. His fingers are long and slim and move with practiced ease. He would make a brilliant pianist, or a gamer, or a hacker. As I cut the cheese, Peahen comes and goes. One time she bends behind the bar to pick something up. She pushes me to the side, but I feel her fingers sliding across my arm and down to my hand. She pushes a note into my palm and leaves with a bottle of vodka in hand. I look down to find a little purple card, folded in 4. I excuse myself and go to the restroom to read it. Should nightingales only sing at night? Odd. It is scribbled in small caps, each letter strong by itself, as if not only the words have purpose, but every stroke does too. It strikes me as male handwriting. I don't know why. No one has signed it. I don't know the significance of the note, so I fold it again and put it in my bra. I'm also at a loss about the meaning of the question. I'm no expert about birds, and everything in Lavender seems to be branded around tea, birds, and noble titles. When I go back to the bar, I ask Ben about it. He shrugs and says, Valerie will tell me. Great. It is almost midnight when she comes to talk to me again, this time to tell me they need me in a private room. My breath hitches, and my skin prickles with a feeling somewhere between fear and anger. She tells me to pick up the cheese platter and follow her. As I do, she fills me in on the identity of the client inside. He is a businessman, and we are to call him Marquis Buxton. Apparently, all patrons receive a fake British surname and title upon reaching a certain status in Lavender. All management staff are either earls or below, maintaining the charade. The girls are all likened to birds. It gives me a vibe of hunters and prey, a setup of a class structure that is foreign but posh. I love gimmicks like this, and normally would be happy to take part in the game, but not when I know that the game can have such violent endings. When the door opens, I'm invited into a tropical paradise. The air is humid and warm, and the colors of the room differ completely from the ones in the lounge. In opulent yellows and greens, the entire place radiates easy-going wealth. Indoor palm trees cover the side walls of the long room, and little islands of pure white gold sand are artistically spread out across the floor. My stilettos click on an imitation deck as I follow Valerie deeper and make out the outline of a sitting man through the gathering mist. There is a wooden table toward the back and a big 3-seater swing. The furniture is covered with live foliage, and the whole place smells divine, like nature and summer. Birdsong instead of music fills the air. I look up, expecting to see parrots and toucans, but find only a few round speakers built in the ceiling. The normality of that brings me back to reality, rooted to the floor of a late-night tea room, and not on an unexpected holiday. Somewhere amid my awe, I wonder how Lavender pays for having an oasis like this in the middle of cold Chicago. The tray I'm carrying shakes slightly in my hands, and my plastered-on smile hurts the muscles of my cheeks. I press on, now intrigued by what kind of man spends money to come to a bar with the peculiar selling points of tea and make-believe.
Thank you for waiting, Marquis Buxton,
says Valerie as she sets down a tray of colorful cocktails and sits next to him, the swing creaking as the weight on it shifts.
This is Red Partridge. She started work here recently and is eager to make acquaintances.
Despite this entire thing being a ruse, I can't contain my disappointment at the nickname. It is insulting. Partridges are basically chickens. What is wrong with Adrienne? According to the internet, which I scoured thoroughly for a cool-sounding name, it means dark, rich, and beautiful. It is perfect. If not my first name, then my second name, Raven. Now there's a bird for you, but now I will be known as Red Partridge. What a joke. The introduction is awkward, and I don't know what to do. With all the pretend Britishness, I have the desire to curtsy. Yet it sounds a bit like a business introduction, so maybe I should shake hands with the man. Instead of all that, I set the cheese tray on the table and sit next to him. The swing creaks once more, then settles.
Nice to meet you,
I say, maintaining my British accent. I've been using it while in Lavender, but being this close to someone important, someone whose displeasure can cost me my revenge, makes me more cautious. I hope I haven't overdone it.
How lovely. Where are you from?
The man smiles wide, his face lighting up. Up close, I can only describe him as painfully average. He looks about 50, his hairline slowly escaping his forehead. What remains of his mane is dyed in black. Clean-shaven, his face showcases a myriad of wrinkles and pigmentation spots that don't detract from the simple uncle-next-door look he carries. His eyes seem like they could belong to someone who helps people with their mortgage or buys them a sandwich if they've forgotten their wallet. He has a small round belly, partially concealed by his relaxed pose and his colorful shirt. It looks like he came prepared to be entertained in the tropical room. He has shorts and flip-flops on and is in complete contrast with Valerie's fabulous gown. Even I look out of place with my dress and high heels. Despite this obvious mismatch of style, Valerie beams at Marquis Buxton. They both don't seem to mind.
Red Partridge is a bit shy today,
Valerie says with a glare in my direction. I realize I haven't answered his question.
I'm from the UK.
I relax my face and reset my smile, offering the Marquis some cheese. He takes it from my fingers with his mouth, and while the feel of his lips on my hand is not pleasant, it is not as revolting as I expected.
I've been to England once.
He replies.
It is quite damp. Have you been, Lady Grey?
I haven't yet, Marquis Buxton, and Lady Grey is my sister. Please, call me Miss Bergamot.
I do apologize, Miss Bergamot. You look awfully alike.
I try to keep from perking up at the little tidbit of information.
We share blood, so it's no surprise you find us similar,
she says. Is Lavender a family business? This starts to look more and more like a gang stint. The drinks flow, and the small talk between Valerie and Marquis Buxton never stops. I add a comment here and there, but otherwise stay silent. An hour passes without me receiving any special attention. My body relaxes, partly due to the warmth, partly because tiredness wraps around my ankles and seems to drag me down. As I show off my plastered-on smile every few seconds, I retreat into my mind, going through my mental checklist for the night. I know I have done well so far, and I know Valerie will ask me to return. But I'm also no closer to getting up to the second floor and uncovering any more secrets unless the Marquis takes me upstairs. With his negligible interest toward me, I doubt that will happen. The fate of the captured man downstairs also plagues me, his chiseled face popping up from time to time in front of my eyes. The note in my bra pricks my skin every time I move. I wonder who wrote it and why. Chapter 13.
I should go home soon, but not before I hear a song.
Marquis Buxton declares when the glasses are almost empty and we have sampled all the cheeses on the board. Valerie chuckles.
Of course, my dear. I will get the Nightingale for you. Any requests?
The song from last time. It puts me to sleep, so when my driver collects me and takes me home, I'm ready for bed.
The Nightingale? Another bird. Is singing some sort of euphemism?
Absolutely.
Valerie says. The swing dips, making Buxton's body slide closer to mine as she stands up.
Red Partridge will stay here to keep you company.
I freeze as I watch her hips sway toward the exit, leaving me alone with the man. If something is to happen, this is the moment. I have eaten some cheese and taken a few sips of water, but I've been careful not to drink any of the cocktails. Spiked or merely alcoholic, they can cloud my judgment. I don't know if Valerie noticed at all, but if she did, she kept quiet about it. Expecting several indecent things, I look up meekly, meeting the Marquis's eyes. He smiles.
I had a delightful time. I hope you did too. Have you heard the nightingale sing?
His question surprises me. You mean the bird? He laughs softly and moves his hand to cover mine.
The singer here. You really must be new. The nightingale is Lavender's most prized bird. Most of us who come here to the private first floor come to hear a song, and for the lovely opening acts too.
He adds, as if not to offend me. I stare at his warm hand cupping mine. I don't feel any danger from him. He radiates tiredness, and in that infinitesimal moment, my fatigue resonates with his. I slump in the swing next to him and pat the top of his hand with mine. Thank you, I say. I look forward to the song. He shuffles to the middle of the swing, pulls me toward him, and embraces me, his arm draping around my shoulders. The fingers of his other hand are still holding mine. Despite the strange circumstances, the hug is not unpleasant. I know that can change in a heartbeat. It only requires him to move the slightest bit, to press himself against me or to stroke my bare shoulder or my thigh. But he does nothing like that, so we simply sit there in silence until the door opens a few minutes later, and Valerie walks back in with a short girl at her tail. No, not a girl. When the duo comes into view, I gasp. Valerie shoots me a stern look, but the Marquis only chuckles and squeezes my shoulder before releasing me.
Don't worry,
He says.
we do only come here to hear him sing. There is nothing indecent going on. He is the owner's son, after all.
The boy standing in front of us can't be over 12 years old. He looks adorable in shorts, knee-high socks, and suspenders over a white shirt. His inky hair is neatly trimmed around his head, but not too short. With his intense gaze, a buzz cut would make him look like a troublemaker. His skin is bright in the hazy mist. He seems well. Not underfed or abused, just slightly bored to be here.
Previous owner's son.
Valerie says, pulling my eyes to her. She stands next to the boy, her arms crossed in front of her. She looks like an unsatisfied parent, but Buxton doesn't seem to mind.
He allowed us to still make use of his services despite the change. Very generous, as the nightingale has the loveliest voice indeed.
The questions multiply in my head. Lavender had a previous owner? How did they get a hold of his son? And what is a child doing in a late-night tea room, singing? I shift my attention to him when all conversation halts and the digital birdsong quiets, replaced by a somber melody. Then, the boy sings. His voice is sweet but carries a sadness like raspberries in the beginning of fall. There is a promise of coldness in his notes, despite the cheerful lyrics. His tone rises and falls as if he is a lone wolf cub crying for help. He closes his eyes while he sings, and in his features, I see Melanie. I see her young self reflected in him, and then I see her current self, bruised and molested. Tears well in my eyes, and I look at Valerie, the current unconfirmed villain of the story. She has retreated to the side and is leaning on one wall, next to a palm tree. She is disinterested, as if she has heard the song 1,000 times and it can touch her no longer. I swipe a tear away. I don't want to believe there is another child in danger. His childhood crushed between the walls of Lavender, a place inappropriate for children. Why hasn't the man who saved Melanie saved him, too? A few minutes later, the performance is over. With a curt bow, the boy leaves without waiting for applause or permission to go. Valerie sits back down on the swing with a huff.
We are teaching him manners.
she says. I'm horrified at what that might entail.
We give him way too many allowances because of his talent.
It's okay, he did what I asked him to do and he did it beautifully.
The Marquess gets up to leave.
Can I book the Versailles room for next week? And maybe request that he learn a French song?
Valerie nods with a smile.
That can be arranged. Come with me, and I'll get your name in the reservations book. Red Partridge, dear, please tidy up the room while I'm gone. Oh, and you're hired. Marvelous job.
She gestures with one long, manicured fingernail toward the table full of empty glasses, cutlery, and half-eaten cheese. Leaving me alone on the swing to unpack the complete experience, she strides after Buxton and murmurs in his ear, chuckling. So this is it. I have successfully infiltrated Lavender. The speed of my achievement is some sort of a win. I allow myself a moment to acknowledge my success, stuff a piece of Gouda in my mouth, wash it down with water and sigh. My first time in the private rooms was nothing like I expected. The room itself was a surprise. The man, the boy, it's all so strange, and unfortunately for my passionate revenge plans, it doesn't add up. There's still something fishy about the whole place. The fact they took Melanie on despite her obvious youth bothers me. But doubt creeps in my mind. What if Melanie's case was negligence on their part, an outlier, a mistake? What if my employer is just someone trying to destroy their competition? What if it is a dissatisfied patron? Does it matter? I take a deep breath, the pain of my bruised ribs grounding me. I wince, and the note in my bra moves. I remember the words. Should nightingales only sing at night? Does it refer to the boy? Is he not allowed to sing at other times? Is he being kept here against his will? There's too much I don't understand. I stand up, collect the glasses, and take them to the bar. 2 days is not enough time to tell. I need more. And if Lavender is, in fact, a clean place of entertainment, the work is much better than Frenzy Eats. If Valerie keeps me on, I can move jobs and make better money. If I decide it's morally wrong to steal their documents, I can just keep saving while working here. I allow a positive fantasy to caress my mind as I remove the dishes and trash from the tropical room. I ask Barman Ben about the other rooms on the floor, my interest piqued, but he doesn't turn to look at me once as I move around him, so I give up. Instead, I decide to check on the prisoner downstairs. Valerie is not around, and the lounge area has quieted. No one will notice my brief absence, especially since I'm supposed to be cleaning and bringing stuff to the bins in the basement anyway. I slip the remains of the cheese board downstairs while Ben isn't looking. There are a few crackers and a bunch of grapes. If the mysterious hostage is hungry, it will do. Chapter 14. I lockpick my way into the storage freezer again. He is still there, his wide shoulders rising and falling with the rhythm of sleep. Why did I decide he needs food? He doesn't look like he is starving. His body seems big and strong, his muscles as far from atrophy as muscles can be. He probably hasn't been down here for long. I set the platter on the floor with care, hoping not to wake him. I move quietly to stand in front of him and observe his sleeping face. As I watch his bowed head resting on his chest, I notice the shadow of a stubble. Resisting the urge to run my knuckles on the side of his cheek, I admire his long eyelashes and straight nose. The image of a sparkly vampire from a book I read in my teenage years pops up in my mind. He loved to watch a girl sleep. I used to think it was sweet, then creepy, but in this moment I understand his struggle. For some reason I'm attracted to the person in the chair, but whether it's his looks, the mystery of his situation, or something else, I can't tell. Maybe a mix of all those. I shift on my feet. I don't have a lot of time. I can't wait for him to wake up. Neither can I abandon the tray there and leave, knowing that he can see it, but not taste it. So I go for the third option. I place my hand on his shoulder. As my fingers connect with the fabric of his shirt, he jumps, his eyes wide open, his entire body tense. I get to my knees, trying to make eye contact from below. To calm him, I place a hand on his thigh, only to find out my heart is beating fast and my ears are burning. What am I doing? Why aren't I just focusing on completing the job? Why can't I ignore this stranger? I have always considered my natural curiosity an outstanding trait, but what if it's a flaw? I don't have much time to ponder my life choices as my eyes intertwine with his. The cool gray stare sends a wave of heat through my body, and I instantly feel embarrassed.
If I remove your gag, are you going to scream?
He shakes his head. His bruises are now shadows on his body, healing well. He seems to have no recent injuries. No one would say yes even if they planned to scream, but I still untie the fabric wrapped around his mouth, ready to push it back in, if needed. His gaze doesn't leave my face, and I feel a strange validation from its intensity, like he's approving of my actions. When I pull a scrunched ball of cloth from his mouth, a string of saliva follows it. I swipe it away, my finger brushing his lips. As he opens and closes his mouth, my hands go to the sides of his face, and I massage his jaw. It must be so sore. He lets out a soft moan as I do this, then twists his head to the side and coughs. I put the piece of cloth on the floor and stride over to the tray, allowing him a moment to compose himself. Why is it so easy to trust him not to scream, not to bite? The usual alarm bells in my brain are quiet.
Who are you?
His voice is raspy and deep. Its timbre sends pleasant shivers down my spine. It suits his rugged looks.
My name is Adrian,
I say before I think about it properly. Am I even supposed to talk to him?
Who are you?
He huffs a laugh.
You didn't have that accent yesterday.
Shit. I forgot to use the British accent when I redid his bonds yesterday. I was so surprised and focused on his safety, I'd dropped my guard then.
You must be misremembering,
I say unconvincingly.
Don't worry, your secret's safe with me.
He is smiling, and I find myself smiling back. Why are you here? I drop my accent. There is no point in pretending.
So I'm contained and don't misbehave.
He winks. Do you misbehave often?
As little as possible.
He says.
There are consequences to crossing the people who run this place at the moment.
Valerie?
I would advise you not to use her name here. She doesn't give it away easily. If you're here with some ulterior motive, you better not reveal you know too much.
I frown. Is he my employer? But if he is, how is he texting me while he's here? Do you know the Lavender Phantom? I ask, because I don't know what else to say.
He's said to roam the rooms of Lavender during the day. Sometimes he helps the girls and boys. But no one has really seen him, so he might just be someone invented to make people feel safer in this hellhole.
He is silent for a moment, but I feel he wants to say something more.
Maybe you could be the embodiment of the Phantom. You have already helped me and proved that you have special skills.
Have I?
You're clearly someone who knows their way around a rope and a lock.
He whispers, drawing me in closer, forcing me to listen.
I doubt Val gave you a key to this freezer, and this double column tie is very comfortable.
My eyes widen. He's either very observant or knows who I really am. Or is he just a kinky person with a wild imagination? I've never seen him around the community. It isn't unheard of. Kinky people are everywhere. Of course, many of them practice in private, never to appear at any of the public events. But the rope scene in Chicago is relatively small. I rack my brain, trying to figure out if I've seen him before.
I won't push,
he says after I don't reply.
Are you going to feed me?
I decide I haven't met him before. I would remember him otherwise. He's not an easy man to ignore if only for his looks. I pick up the tray. I debate untying his arms so he can feed himself, but as I scan his hard body again, his muscles and the size of him, I decide against it. I do inexplicably trust him. but my trust has been broken before. Small steps. Are you hungry?
I'm starving.
He replies.
Val has been giving me only water for the past couple of days. Believes that will make me go to the toilet less.
He smiles at that, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Suddenly, he seems exhausted. I pluck a grape from the bunch and push it into his mouth. So, even if Valerie hasn't shown her nasty side to me yet, she still looks after the hostage. Or is she behind his imprisonment, too? I'm sorry this is the only thing I can give you, I say, absent-mindedly. I'm new, so I get little access to food or to the downstairs area. He swallows with satisfaction.
This is the best grape I've ever had.
I continue giving him small pieces of cheese and crackers, with grapes in between. He chews in silence. I avoid his eyes because it's like he sees right through me. I bite my tongue as I feel the need to spill out all my secrets to him. Somehow, tied and quiet, he feels safe, like a confidant who will never judge. When the platter is empty, I sigh with relief and look at my watch. It's been 10 minutes, and I should go.
Did you receive a note today?
The man asks before I replace his gag. My eyebrows shoot up in surprise. Yes?
Maybe the Lavender Phantom is looking over you. Maybe he's real after all.
He opens his mouth, ready to bite into the rag again. How do you know about it? Are you him? Do you know who I am? The questions spill out because I can't contain them anymore.
It's rumored the Phantom likes writing crappy poetry. How can I be him if I've been here, tied to this chair? And as far as I know, you're Adrian with a fake British accent and some cool abilities.
That's all?
I'm also starting to think you're someone who can't ignore people's suffering.
He shifts in his chair.
This place is going to be very difficult for you if that's the case.
I knew what I was getting into, I say, but it rings hollow in my ears. I pick up the gag and tie off the fabric behind his head and check on his wrists. I massage his shoulders to ease the strain of him having his arms bent back for such a long time. He will be very stiff if and when he's released, I think, trying to keep my anxiety at bay. As I go out, leaving him there alone once again, I consider his words. He is probably right. I've spent the past 2 days spiraling between determination and anger. How much longer will I be able to sustain my cover with such strong emotions battling inside? I need to go upstairs, grab the ledgers, hand them over to the police, and let them deal with it. And if Lavender is clean, well, then they have nothing to worry about.
The Lavender Phantom. He knows he is about to be beaten up again. There is nothing subtle about the two men holding him down on his knees. A woman paces in front of him, tapping away on her phone.
We had a deal,
She says. You can't blame me for this, he replies.
I let him get tutoring and have a normal life in exchange for your freedom.
She stops and looks him in the eyes. I haven't gone anywhere. I was here all the time. That part is true, but he knows it's a weak argument. In this world, no one really works alone. Even with his limited team, he still has support.
Oh, please. Do you think he would have decided to run away by himself? He knows if he tries and fails, you will be hurt. You must have convinced him somehow that you'll join him in his escape.
The woman is waving a finger at him, reminding him of years ago when they would fight, and he, blinded by love, would apologize for things that weren't his fault and try to win her approval with gifts. He's 12. It's the start of his rebellious years. You can't expect he will always obey you, he says. So Luna have failed. They were supposed to get his boy to run while the bodyguards were distracted, but clearly something has gone wrong. Maybe Matthias had been late. Maybe Tanya had failed at keeping the guards' attention on herself.
Yeah, puberty. Whatever. After we're done with you tonight, he won't rebel for a while.
He grunts when he is dragged back and strapped to a chair. A towel is placed on each of his arms. He is scared and sick of being in pain, but he won't show it. A metal bat trails on the floor, making that distinct soul-destroying sound.
Film it and show it to the boy,
The woman says and leaves. She was never able to stomach violence in front of her. Her cruelty lies elsewhere. The first blow connects with his forearm, and he stifles a scream. You can't blame a father for trying to keep his son safe.
Chapter 15. The third night at Lavender blends into the fourth, then the fifth, then the sixth and seventh. I try to get upstairs to the office every night, but a bouncer always stops me and tells me to turn around. I catch a few glimpses of the guy who beat me up, but he seems to be one of Valerie's special too, so he's not around too often. This is good because I still wince whenever I take a deep breath, and I don't need another reminder of that day in front of my face. Work in Lavender is easy. After Valerie said I was perfect for the job, I started ignoring her occasional sneers, playing the role of a hostess a bit too well for my comfort. I often have to remind myself of my ulterior motive, because the better pay and the uncomplicated work make it easy to forget. It is nothing like the thankless labor in Frenzy Eats where I get paid in inappropriate comments from Jamie and fuck all in cash. To my horror, I start liking my undercover Lavender job. I stop visiting Hannah and Melanie for a bit, afraid they will be able to tell I'm changing. At home, I get lost in the fantasy. The preparation of the clothes and makeup, the approval I get from barman Ben every night when I look my best, the jealous looks of Peehan and the other girls when I pass them with a tray full of tips. It blends into one interminable night, full of wonder and lush experiences inside the private rooms. Whoever designed them is a genius. I've only been in 3 of the 6 so far, but they all capture luxury and opulence in unique ways. The casual sumptuousness of the tropical room is in complete contrast with the strict measured style of the East Asian room and the gold lavishness of the Versailles room. I enjoy being there, entertaining myself as much as I entertain the clients. It is easy to forget my goals and get lost in the chatter, mixed with indulgent snacks and free-flowing drinks. I've even relaxed around that, sipping only the cocktails I watch Ben make in front of me. Yet tonight, as I go to Hannah's and slip in bed next to Melanie at the early hours of the morning, only hours before she needs to get up for school, the expensive fantasy fractures. I see her face, lined with sweat, her brows furrowed, her trembling hand clutching the sheet. She is having a nightmare. I touch her cheek, which despite the layers of covers is cold, and try to wake her gently. She doesn't stir, doesn't wake. Her eyes are moving from side to side under her closed eyelids. A tear rolls down her cheek. What horrors is her mind seeing? I put a hand on her shoulder and shake her. She gasps awake and heaves, her eyes open but wide with confusion. You're safe, Lainey. You're here with me. Tonight, Hannah told me Melanie's been whimpering at night. She asked me if I knew anything specific about her attack, anything that can help us help her. We agreed I would sleep with her tonight in case my absence is the reason she's scared. I can tell they were both getting suspicious of my late-night shifts, but neither has said anything yet.
Sophie,
she whispers and draws herself to me into a hug. I hold her close as she trembles. I have to make sure I see her or check in every day. But the gangster guys are probably still looking for her, and every time I go to Hannah's, I introduce a bit more risk into our lives. After she stills, I pull away, thinking she has fallen back asleep. That is what used to happen when nightmares of Mom and Dad's accident plagued the both of us. But she's wide awake. Are you okay? I ask.
I keep dreaming of hands touching me all over. Meaty, nasty, sweaty hands.
I hug her close again. Is she starting to remember?
And I hear this song. Even when I don't dream, it's in my head. It's a melody, but it's as if a child is humming it.
A child? I frown, remembering the nightingale's joyless song. Lavender is not a safe place, I remind myself, angry for falling for the illusion it presents. It's beautiful, but wretched. It's a mirage. Can you hum it? What are the odds it is the same song I heard there? But when Melanie's throat bobs with sound, I freeze. It is the nightingale's song. It is rough and out of tune, but I can recognize it. After my heart sinks and then lurches in a frenzied beat, I realize I have to face my selfishness and try harder at the investigation. I have to get a move on. After rocking Melanie back to sleep, I stare at the ceiling for a few hours, restless slumber taking me away from my thoughts from time to time. When I awake, it is lunchtime, and my sister and Hannah are gone. I grab my things and drive home. My heart warms up when I find a clean mug, a teapot with a spoonful of pure Assam, my current favorite, and a note that says, "Thank you." I take a long shower after I finish my drink, making sure my whole body is as smooth as the silk on a Veet commercial. I spray coconut oil on myself, massaging it in, adding a glow to my pale skin. Ever since I began my quest at the tea room, I have paid more attention to my body. For a week, I was all glitzy cocktail dresses, stilettos, smoky eyes, and styled red locks. The hours pass quickly when I'm in Lavender, entertaining clients and spying on the staff. Every time I see a mirrored surface, I look at myself, feeling glamorous in my disguise, and so comfortable that I have momentarily lost track of the real me. Sophie Taylor and Adrian Raven blend together in one beautiful, put-together package. It scares me. My phone buzzes with a message, and I know who it is before looking. I haven't reported much to my employer, and they haven't pressed. But if I were them, my patience would be wearing thin by now.
Why are you so slow?
I sigh and type back. They still don't let me go upstairs. The reply I get drips with passive aggression.
Do I have to set up everything for you? I will make sure you get there tonight, but if you don't get the documents, your reward will be reduced by 5,000.
I start typing but get another message before I have a chance to defend myself.
Don't bother replying. A burner phone is at the location below. Collect it before your next shift, and delete all our communication from here.
So, they're really running out of patience. The tone of the messages is different from that of the guy in the basement. My gut tells me they're two different people, but because I haven't seen him since the day I fed him grapes, I can't be sure. I try on my outfit for the evening, concealing my lockpicks where I can, testing the entire ensemble by sitting up and down, dancing, even rolling around. The navy blue polka dot satin dress remains well positioned on my body, and I stand in front of the mirror, happy with my choice. It has a simple strapless bodice, revealing my shoulders and collarbones and allowing me much-needed movement. From below the waist, it has a pencil skirt with a slit at the front, reaching the middle of my thigh. The material is ruffled around the slit, concealing my legs from certain angles, yet allowing me to take long, confident strides and kneel and squat. My underwear is a balconette cream bra and matching panties. My lockpicks are safely tucked away, ready for me to use when I get into the office on the second floor. I straighten my hair, and it falls like a waterfall on my naked shoulders, soft and silky. To keep the front part from my face, I braid it sideways. It is something I learned on Melanie during quiet nights at home a long time ago. Before all this began. My wrists are protected by two wide silver cuffs. I opted for no earrings and no necklace, just as any other time. Anything that can be used to strangle me or rip my ears open isn't a good idea. If it is not a lockpick or a piece of armor, it is useless on my body. Before I go to Lavender, I visit the locker storage place and pick up a small silver flip phone. I enter and save the employer's number, as well as Hannah's and Melanie's. I name all of them as takeout places I've ordered from, and delete the incriminating conversation from my personal phone. I give Hannah my new burner phone number, saying I'd lost my phone somewhere. She's busy, so she doesn't question it. Tonight is the night. This was part 3 of The Lavender Phantom, book 1 of the Club Lavender Duet by Lainey Delaroque. To listen to the next 5 chapters, please navigate to the next video. All parts of this audiobook are available in the playlist The Lavender Phantom on this YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to the channel to avoid missing out, and see you in the next part.